Very good morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of financial management. Today, in this lecture, we are going to start with the concept of capital structure. Okay, we will start with the second unit with second topic, that is capital structure. In this lecture, we are going to see first what is capital structure decision. After that, we will see what is the meaning and concept of capital structure. After that, we will see some definitions of capital structure. The next point is what are the components of capital structure. And after that, the next point is what are the features of capital structure decision. The next point is importance of capital structure. The next one is factors determining the firm's capital structure. What are the factors behind designing the capital structure? And the last is capital structure theories. Okay, so first we will start with the basic concept of capital structure. Capital structure decisions are the very crucial decisions for every organization. Now, what is meant by capital structure? The word capital means the funds required by the organization. Okay, the money the organization needs to run its organization, to finance its assets. Okay, so capital structure means what? The funds the organization is in need of, or the funds the organization required, must be raised from which sources? That is capital structure. Capital structure means either we should raise the funds the organization needs with the help of equity shares or with the help of debentures, that is debt. There are two sources of funds. The organization can raise funds with the help of two sources, either debt capital or it can be raised with the help of equity capital. That is capital structure. Okay, so we will see capital structure decision. Just look at the screen. The decisions concerning the form of financing to be utilized. Capital structure decision is related with the decision the which form we should utilize for financing our organization, for financing the assets of the organization. Either we should go for the equity source or we should go for the debt source. Which source of finance should be utilized by the organization to finance its assets, to finance its activities? That is capital structure decision. The amount to be raised and the proportion in which they are to be raised in the overall capitalization is termed as capital structure decision. Now, how much amount should be raised? How much amount or the funds should be raised with the help of equity or with the help of debt? The proportion should be designed in such a way that it should be beneficial for the organization. It should be profitable for the organization. So, the decision of the amount or the proportion of funds to be raised from equity or debt, that is called as capital structure decision. These decisions are very important as they influence the shareholders' return. The decision to raise the funds with the help of equity or with the help of debt, or the proper proportion of the debt equity, is very important decision for every organization to increase the returns for the shareholders, to increase the value for the organization. Okay, so it is very important decision, and this decision is called as capital structure decision. Capital structure, as its name itself suggests or signifies, is the composition of the capital employed by the firm from various sources of finance. Capital structure, the word itself tells its meaning that it comprises of uh, the different sources of finance, or the ways from where the finance should be raised, from where the funds should be raised. Okay, it comprises of both owner's capital and debt capital. Owner's capital include equity share capital as well as preference share capital. The capital structure of the firm represents its investment and financing strategy. The capital structure will tell us that from where we are going to raise the funds. It tells us the financing strategy for the organization. While deciding the ideal capital structure for the firm, the ultimate aim of the firm, that is maximization of shareholders' worth. Every organization wants to give more and more returns to its shareholders, who are the owners of the organization. Okay, every organization's main aim is to maximize the shareholders' worth or shareholders' value. Okay, and every organization gives the first preference or the first priority to this objective, that is maximizing shareholders' wealth, shareholders' worth, or give maximum returns to the shareholders. Okay, so capital structure should be in such a way that it should maximize the shareholders' worth. Okay, that will be the optimum capital structure. If the capital structure the organization has adopted is increasing the returns or is maximizing the returns to the shareholders, that means it is the optimum capital structure. Further, the firm's financial requirement and the cost of capital are the two factors which are helpful in determining the sources and the amount of capital to be raised. See, there are two main requirements. First one is the firm's financial requirement, the cost of capital. What are the requirements of any organization? How much amount the organization is in need of? This one is the first point or the first factor. And the second one is cost of capital. If we are raising with the help of equity and the cost of equity is very more or very much than the cost of debt capital, then it will be beneficial for the organization to go for the debt capital, because the cost of debt is less as compared to cost of equity. So the first factor is the requirement, that is the financial requirement. How much financial requirement is there? After that, second factor is the cost of capital. These two factors determine the cost of the capital structure for the organization. So these two factors are very important to decide the capital structure for any organization. Okay. Now just look at the screen. Components of capital structure. As we have seen already, the funds can be raised with the help of equity or with the that is owner's capital or with the help of debt capital. So here is again two components are given, that is shareholders funds, okay, that is owner's capital or equity capital, and the second one is debt capital, is also called by borrowed funds. Now shareholders fund includes equity capital, okay. After that, second one is preference capital, and the third one is return earning. Shareholders capital includes three. First one is equity, second one is equity, and after that preference capital, and the third one is return earning. Okay, in the similar way, borrowed fund or the debt fund includes, first one is debentures. We can raise or we can borrow funds with the help of debentures, and second one is with the help of term loan, and third one is public deposit. So these are the components of capital structure. Now, what are the definitions of capital structure? We will see some important definitions given by some financial experts regarding what is capital structure. We will see one by one. First one is definition given by Gernstenberg. Capital structure of the company refers to the makeup of its capitalization, and it includes all the long-term capital resources, example, loans, reserves, shares, bonds, etc. Okay, according to this, capital structure means what? Capital structure means the makeup of capitalization. Makeup of capitalization of any organization, which includes the long term funds. It includes the shareholders funds, that means funds raised with the help of equity shares. It also includes the funds raised by loans. Okay, so capital structure of any company or any organization means the makeup of its capitalization. Second definition is given by John. Capital structure, as per John, capital structure is the combination of debt and equity securities that comprises a firm's financing of its assets. As per John, what is capital structure? Capital structure means the combination of debt and equity. We are in need of funds, okay? We want funds to finance the assets of the organization, and the funds which the organization is in need of to finance its assets is raised by with the help of equity as well as debt. It is called capital structure. And the next definition is given by I.M. Pandey. Capital structure refers to the mix of long term sources of funds such as debentures, long term debt, that is, we can say loan, bank loan, preference share capital, and the equity share capital, including reserves and surplus also, that is retained earning. So, these are some important definitions. The next point is features of optimum capital structure. Now, if we are talking about the optimum capital structure, now what is optimum capital structure? What are the features of optimum capital structure? Okay, optimum capital structure means what? Optimum capital structure is that structure where the returns to the equity shareholders are maximizing. Okay, on the other hand, the cost of capital or the total or the weighted average cost of capital should be minimized. That is optimum capital structure. Now, what are the features of optimum capital structure? First one is optimum capital structure should maximize the earning per equity share. If the organization is able to increase the EPS, that is earning per share for the equity holders, then that organization is having a optimum capital structure. The capital structure should be such that it should be able to increase the EPS for the equity shareholders. Okay. Second feature is it should minimize the cost of financing. The optimum capital structure is that if we are minimizing or reducing the cost of financing or cost of capital, we can say that means we are having a optimum capital structure. The capital structure which is going to minimize the cost of capital is called as optimum capital structure. The next feature is the risk must be managed and it should not lead the company to insolvency. The capital structure should be such that the organization must be able to bear that much risk, should able to face that much risk, and it should not lead to the organization to go into insolvency. The next one is it should be flexible. The capital structure of any organization must be flexible one, and the composition of funds can be changed according to the requirements. The organization must be able to change as per the requirement of the organization. It should be flexible to change its proportion of debt and equity. Okay. The next one is it should help the company to generate cash flows in future. The capital structure should be such that it can help the organization to generate the returns or the cash flows in the future also. The next point is the company must be able to exercise control in its affairs. The capital structure must be in such a manner that the organization should be able to control its all activities, control its affairs. That is the affairs of the organization. Okay. So these are the features of optimum capital structure. The next point is importance of capital structure. Now we have seen what is the concept of capital structure. We have seen some definitions of capital structure. Now the next point is what is the importance of capital structure? Why there is a need of capital structure? Capital structure is a very important decision for every organization. It is a very crucial decision for every organization because the value of the firm depends on the capital structure of the organization. The returns for the equity holders depends on the capital structure of the organization. Okay. Capital structure is vital for a firm as it determines the overall stability of a firm. As the capital structure is going to design or determine the stability or the status of the firm. Okay, so it is very important or vital, we can say. Capital structure decisions are very vital. Here are some of the other factors that highlight the importance of capital structure are: first one is, a firm having a sound capital structure has a higher chance of increasing the market price of the shares and securities that it possesses. See, if we are having a proper capital structure in our organization, okay, then the firm is having more chances to increase its return for the equity shareholders also, or for the preference shareholders also, and the other securities also, for other securities also. It will lead to a higher valuation in the market. It is going to increase the value of the organization or the firm in the market. It will increase the value of the shares also. It will give more returns to the equity shareholders also. Second one is, a good capital structure ensures that the available funds are used effectively. It prevents over or under capitalization. If we are having a optimum capital structure in our organization, that means we are properly utilizing all the funds. There is neither under capitalization or there is neither over capitalization. The next point is, it helps the company in increasing its profit in the form of higher returns to the stakeholders. If we are having the optimum capital structure, then it is definitely going to increase the returns for the shareholders. It is going to increase the worth of shareholders. Okay. So these are the importance of capital structure. Again, next point is, a proper capital structure helps in maximizing shareholders' capital while minimizing the overall cost of capital. The next one is, a good capital structure provides firm with the flexibility of increasing or decreasing the debt capital as per the situation. Now, what are the factors determining the firm's capital structure? It includes two. First one is alternative sources of funds. We are having different sources to raise funds. Okay. We can raise funds with the help of only equity. We can raise funds with the help of only preference share capital. We can raise the funds with the help of only debt, that is debentures. Either we can raise the funds with the help of equity plus debt. We can raise the funds with the help of preference plus debt. We can raise the funds with the help of preference, equity, and debt. There are a number of alternatives available to the firm for raising funds from various sources in varying proportions. The capital structure can include: first one is only equity capital. Second one is, when the company is already existing, it can use preference capital only. When the company is already existing, it can employ debt capital only, or a mix of equity and debt capital in varying proportion can be used, or a mix of preference and debt capital in varying proportion if the company already exists, or a company can use the mix of equity, preference, and debt capital in varying proportions. So these are the different alternative sources for raising the funds. So it depends on this factor also. And the second factor is, there are a number of rules which are to be considered while designing the financing pattern. It includes leverage of trading on equity. Second one is sales. Third one is control and ownership. Fourth one is cost. Fifth one is risk. And last one is flexibility. We will see one by one. First one is leverage of trading on equity. It implies that the company uses a mix of debt capital, preference capital, and equity capital wherein the long-term debt adds to the equity shareholders' earning per share when the firm's returns are in excess of the cost of capital. So first one is the leverage of trading on equity, which is going to affect the capital structure decision. Second factor is sales. The firm's capital structure also depends on its sales. Okay, that is, when the firm's sale is prospected to remain stable, then the firm can raise a higher level of debt. See, if the firm's sales is stable, then the firm is able to raise more funds with the help of debt capital, because the organization is able to bear the risk or the obligation of paying a timely interest to the debt holders. Therefore, if sales is stable for the organization, the firm can raise more funds with the help of debt. This is so because the firm's stability in the sales indicates that the firm is capable of meeting its obligation in a timely manner. In the same way, growth in sales also indicates that the firm is likely to raise debt capital for financing the investment. And if the sales are increasing, then the firm is able to increase its debt proportion for financing its investment proposals in the near future also. So this is the second factor. Again, the third factor is control and ownership. The finance manager should ensure that the existing management control and ownership should not be interrupted, as the issue of fresh equity shares will change the existing control and ownership. On the other hand, if more debt has been raised, then there is no dilution of control and ownership, but the degree of financial risk will increase. So this is again the next factor which is going to affect the financial capital structure decisions. Okay. Next one is cost. Optimum capital structure depends on the cost factor. We have already seen, that is, cost of capital is going to affect or going to impact on the capital structure decision definitely. If we are able to raise the funds with the help of debt capital, and the cost of debt is cheaper as compared to cost of equity, then we will definitely go for debt. Okay. So an optimum capital structure is such that the overall cost of capital is minimum, whereas the earnings per share are maximum. So we are going to select, or we are going to choose that option where the cost is minimum and the returns are maximum. Next factor is risk. As per this notion, the firm should rely more on the equity share capital instead of the debt capital, because the higher the use of debt in the capital structure, the higher is the commitment as to the interest payment. Okay. So risk factor is very important. Risk factor is also going to affect the capital structure decisions. The next one is flexibility. The firm's management should pick that capital structure mix which is easily adjustable as per the changes in the requirements of the funds in the upcoming time. The firm should be flexible. The firm should be able to change the proportion of debt equity mix as per the requirements. Okay. The capital structure of the company indicates that the extent to which a company trusts the external sources of finance, as well as the extent to which the internal funds are employed to back the expansion. So these are the factors which are going to determine the capital structure. The next point is theories of capital structure. The capital structure chapter or unit, we can say, includes numericals also, in that we have to calculate the value of the firm, the cost of capital. Okay. So these can be seen with the help of different theories. So capital structure includes four types of theories. First one is net income approach. Second one is net operating income approach. Third one is Modigliani and Miller approach. And the last one is traditional approach. We will see one by one. First one is net income approach. Now, net income approach theory, what is all about? This theory tells that as we are going to increase the proportion of debt in our capital structure, then it will be going to increase the value of the firm and decrease the overall cost of capital. Net income approach is given by David. Okay. This theory focuses on the debt proportion of the capital structure or in the capital structure should be increased. As we are going to increase the debt proportion, we are going to increase the value of the firm. On the other hand, the overall cost of capital is going to decrease. So we will see, just look at the screen. According to NI approach, that is net income approach, a firm may increase the total value of a firm by lowering its cost of capital. A firm can increase its value by lowering its cost of capital. When the cost of capital is lowest and the value of the firm is greatest, we call it as an optimum capital structure for the firm. At this point, the market price per share is also maximized. This theory is given by David Durant. Okay. As per this theory, a firm can increase its value or can lower the overall cost of capital by increasing the proportion of debt in the capital structure. If we are increasing the debt proportion in the capital structure, then there is increase in the value of the firm and there is decrease in the overall cost of capital. The NI approach clearly underlines the importance of debt as it is the determinant of the value of the firm. It is focusing on the debt mainly. Okay. The same is possible continuously by lowering its cost of capital by the use of debt capital. If we are using more debt in our capital structure, it will going to decrease the overall cost of capital. In other words, using more debt capital with a corresponding reduction in the cost of capital, the value of the firm will increase. What are the assumptions of this theory? That is net income approach. First one is corporate tax doesn't exist. There is no corporate tax. Second assumption is the use of debt does not change the perception of the investors. The third assumption is the cost of debt is less than the cost of equity. If the cost of debt capital is less than the cost of equity, then definitely we will go for debt capital. Since the amount of debt in the capital structure increases, weighted average cost of capital decreases, which leads to the increase in the total value of the firm. As the cost of the capital decreases because of increase in the debt proportion in the capital structure, the total value of the firm definitely go on increasing. So the increased amount of debt with constant amount of cost of equity and the cost of debt will highlight the earnings to the shareholders. Now how we will calculate the overall cost of capital in this theory or as per the net income approach? So there is a format. First we will take EBIT. From that we are going to deduct interest cost. Okay. We will get earning after tax because we have assumed that there is no corporate tax under this approach. Okay. So EBIT minus interest, we will get the EAT, that is earning after tax. And the next one is shareholders earning can be calculated with the help of EAT. Because there is no tax, then whatever may be the earnings will be for the shareholders only. After that, if we want to calculate the market value of equity shareholders or equity shares, what we will do? We will take shareholders earning divided by cost of equity. The next, market value of debt we will get. After that, if you want to calculate the total market value of the firm, what we will do? We will take earning market value of equity shareholders plus market value of debt, that is the debt proportion in our capital structure. And if you want to calculate the overall cost of capital in percentage, what we will do? We will take EBIT upon total market value of the firm into 100. So we will see this with the help of numerical also in our practical sessions. We will take one example. In that EBIT is given as rupees 1 lakh. After that, debt proportion is given as rupees 3 lakh and the cost of debt proportion is 10% and the cost of equity is 14%. These figures are imaginary figures. Okay. Just to explain the concept of net income approach. So first we will take EBIT, that is 1 lakh. From that we are going to deduct interest cost, that is 10% of debt capital, that is bond debt part 3 lakh. 3 lakh into 10% will be equals to 30,000. EBIT minus interest, we will get earnings for the equity shareholders, that is 70,000. Okay. After that, if we want to calculate the market value of equity, what we will do? 70,000, that is earnings for equity shareholder, divide by that cost of equity, that is 14%, which is given in the numerical. Cost of equity is 14%. Okay. So we will get the market value of equity shareholders, that is rupees 5 lakh. Okay. And market value of debt is given as rupees 3 lakh in the numerical, in the example. So if we want to calculate the total market value, what we will do? Value of equity plus value of debt, that is 5 lakh plus 3 lakh is equals to 8 lakh. And if we want to calculate the overall cost of capital, what we will do? We will take EBIT, that is 1 lakh, divide by total value of the firm, that is 8 lakh into 100. So we get the overall cost of capital as 12.5%. Okay. If we are going to increase the debt proportion from rupees 3 lakh to 4 lakh, then what happens? Just look at the screen. Other things are same, that is cost of equity and cost of debt and all other things are same. Just we are changing the proportion of debt. Earlier it was rupees 3 lakh, now we are taking it as a 4 lakh. So what will happen? Again we will solve in the similar way. EBIT rupees 1 lakh minus interest. Now here debt proportion is 4 lakh. Okay. And we are calculating 10% of 4 lakh because cost of debt is given as 10%. Okay. So we will do 4 lakh into 10%, that is 40,000. EBIT minus interest of 40,000, we will get the earnings for the equity shareholders as rupees 60,000. And if we want to calculate the market value of equity shareholders, 60,000 divided by 14%, that is cost of equity, we will get 4,20,570 as earnings for the equity shareholders, or the market value of equity. Okay. And the market value of debt is given as 4 lakh because we have changed the proportion from 3 lakh to 4 lakh. Okay. If you want to calculate the total market value, debt plus equity, that is 4,20,570 plus 4 lakh is equals to 8,20,570. And if you want to calculate the overall cost of capital, then we will do EBIT upon total value of firm, that is 1 lakh upon 8,20,570 into 100. So the answer we get is 12%. The overall cost of capital is 12%. Earlier, in the earlier situation, it was 12.5%. But as we increase the debt proportion in our capital structure, the overall cost of capital decreases to 12%. Now you must be clear that as we increase the debt proportion, the cost of capital, the overall cost of capital is going to decrease from 12.5% to 12%. Okay. So this was net income approach. After that, the second approach is net operating income approach. Okay. Now net operating income approach says that there is no impact of capital structure on the value of the firm and on the overall cost of capital. Okay. This approach says that there is no change or there is no effect of the capital structure on the value of the firm and the cost of the capital. Because if we are increasing the debt proportion in the capital structure, then the increased debt proportion is going to increase the risk for the equity holders. And as the risk increases for the equity holders, the cost of equity gets increases. So if the debt cost is decreases and the equity cost is increases, then the overall cost of capital will remain same. It is said by net operating income approach. We will see. According to net operating income approach, which is just opposite to net income approach, the overall cost of capital and the value of the firm are independent of capital structure decisions, and change in the degree of financial leverage does not bring about any change in the value of the firm and the cost of capital. If we are changing the debt proportion in our organization, in our capital structure, there will be no change on the value of the firm or the overall cost of capital. The net income approach suggests that the market value of the firm is not affected by the capital structure changes and the overall cost of capital remains constant, like NI approach. It is also based on certain assumptions, which are: first one is the market capitalizes the value of the firm as a whole. Thus, the split between the capital debt and the equity is not important. This is the first assumption. Second assumption is the debt capitalization rate, that is K0, remains constant and there is no corporate taxes, where K is equals to K0 plus in bracket K0 plus Ki in bracket D by E, where D by E is the debt equity ratio at the market price. The equation 2 states that if K0 and the Ki are constant, then K will rise linearly with leverage. Thus, there is no single point or the range where the capital structure is optimum, because the overall cost of capital remains constant, the value of the firm remains constant. There is no change in overall cost of capital or the value of the firm because of debt proportion in the organization or in the capital structure. Now, what are the features of net operating income approach? First one is, at all degrees of leverage or the debt, we can say the overall cost of capitalization rate would remain constant. For a given level of earning after interest and taxes, the value of the firm would be equal to EBIT or the overall capitalization rate. Second feature is, the value of the equity of the firm can be determined by deducting the value of the debt from the total value of the firm. This can be denoted as follows: value of the firm is equals to value of the equity is equals to total value of the firm minus value of the debt. The third feature is, cost of equity increases with the increase in the debt and the weighted average cost of capital remains constant. When the debt content in the capital structure increases, it increases the risk of the firm also. Okay, as the risk of the shareholders or the firm or the equities increases, the overall cost of capital will be same. So these are the features of net operating income approach, and assumptions are: the firm is evaluated as a whole by the market. Accordingly, overall capitalization rate is used to calculate the value of the firm. The split of capitalization between the debt and the equity is not significant. Second assumption was, overall capitalization rate remains constant regardless of any change in the degree of financial leverage. Third one is, use of debt as a cheaper source of funds would increase the financial risk to the equity shareholders, who demand higher cost on their funds to compensate for the additional risk. Thus, the benefit of lower cost of debt, that is debenture or debt capital, are offset by the higher cost of equity. And the next one is, the cost of debt would stay constant. Okay, there is one numerical or example. A manufacturing company is expecting the net operating income of rupees 2 lakh. The company has debenture lending of rupees 6 lakh at 10% interest payable. The overall capitalization rate is 20%. Calculate the value of the firm and the equity capitalization rate as per the NOI approach, that is net operating income approach. Okay, so given is EBIT or net operating income is given as rupees 2 lakh. Okay, and debt proportion is rupees 6 lakh, and interest is 10%, that is 6 lakh into 10%, the interest will be rupees 60,000, and the overall capitalization rate is 20%. So if you want to calculate the value of the firm, value of the firm can be calculated with the help of the formula EBIT upon K0, that is overall cost of capitalization. Okay, overall capitalization is given as 20%, so we will do EBIT, that is rupees 2 lakh divided by 20%, we will get the answer rupees 10 lakhs. So it will be the value of the firm. If you want to calculate the equity capitalization rate, we will calculate with the help of the formula EBIT minus interest upon V minus D. In that we will keep put the values. EBIT as 2 lakh minus interest 60,000 in bracket. Value of the firm is, V stands for value of the firm. Value of the firm is rupees 10 lakhs minus, we will deduct the debt proportion from that, that is rupees 6 lakh. We will get the answer as 35% equity capitalization rate. Okay. So if we are increasing the debt proportion from 6 lakh to 7 lakh 50,000, what will happen? The value of the firm will be same. If we are increasing the debt proportion also, then also the value of the firm will be same. Value of the firm will be EBIT divided by cost of capital, that is 2 lakh divided by 20%. It will be again similar, that is 10 lakh. Equity capitalization rate will change. Just look at the screen. EBIT minus interest, that is 2 lakh minus 75,000, because 10% of 7 lakh 50,000 will be 75,000 as interest. In another bracket, 10 lakh minus 7 lakh 50,000. If we are calculating, we will get the answer as 50% equity capitalization rate. As the debt proportion increases from 6 lakh to 7 lakh 50,000, the cost of equity increases from 35 to 50%. Because with the increase in the debt proportion, the risk of the equity increases. And as the debt proportion or the cost of debt is less, still the cost of equity goes on increasing, the overall cost of capital will remain constant. So as per the net operating income approach, it is said that there is no change in the overall cost of capital or the value of the firm, as we are going to increase the debt proportion in our capital structure, because the increase in the debt proportion is going to increase the risk for the equity holders, and it will increase the cost of equity. Okay, the next one is traditional theory approach. Okay, after that the fourth one is Modigliani and Miller approach. So we will see this part in our next lecture. Thank you.